And there we go. And that is pretty easy. Hello, heli racers. Well, we're flying a heli today, so that's what I'm going with. We've got a V950 heli. I have looked at the instructions, but they're bad. Like they're really they're really bad. So we're just gonna start with this outside and see how it flies and what it does, and then we'll look at it on the bench if there's anything left, hopefully. So we'll see what happens. It actually has a Dean's connector on here, so we're gonna start by getting this connected, and it comes with a really nice radio that we'll look at in detail. This, I assume we won't lose. Turn that on, plug this in. Okay, that sounds like it armed. Okay, so we've got switches here. We're gonna start, let's see, we are in mode 2. It starts in default mode 2, that's good. We are in, let's see, it doesn't say. I think we're in easy mode. Let's see if it'll turn. Let's see if it'll just hover in basic mode. Huh, let's try again. Now I have flown helis before. I had 450 helis, and I've had a number of helis, so I would I'm impressed. Are you impressed?
Not too much.
I'm impressed by the propellers. Yeah, it's just going. It's
so.
going right over. I have not. I better. Are we catching anything? So let's check. Okay, the swash plate is right. So that's good. The swash plate is moving the right way. So that looks good. So everything's good. The tail is just on a motor, and it seems to be way behind. Let's make sure we get. Oh, I see the problem. So the swash plate's moving up, but there's a arm came off of one of the servos. So the swash plate is not fully connected. Now, I think that'll work better. So that probably just came off on shipping and I didn't notice. Or it came off and crashed, because there it just came off right there. Okay, so I guess we'll get out the manual.
What?
Yeah, I know. Is there a calibrate mode? Because it almost acts like it's out of calibration. Helicopter takes off immediately once the batteries and receiver are connected. That would be scary. I don't want that. Yeah. Helicopter isn't maintained static level when it is binding. Okay, so it wasn't level when it bound. Rebind it properly. So it's like it was sitting on its side when they bound it. Kind of what it looks like to me. So the instructions are, if you are binding a WLtoys model, code at the factory already completed. If needed for a new code, click steps. First, turning aircraft batteries, the receiver lights flashing, the level of the aircraft still on the side, remote control. What? Make sure the throttle stick is in the lowest position, 3D stunt is off, and turn off the switches are in the off state, turn the remote control. Maybe it's because it wasn't level when I turned it on. Alright, I think what they're saying, so you turn this off, and we'll turn this back on.
Flashing light.
Flashing light. So that's flashing. Okay, let's see what happens. The tail's kicking on immediately now, which it didn't last time. I think it needs
a separate motor?
Yes, it is a separate motor. That looks much better. Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
So that's the trick. You have to have it level when you turn on the radio, because it auto levels basically at that point. Now I should take out or unplug the battery when I put this cover on, but I'm used to the batteries being on the front, and that's just not an option with those. So let's go back over here and try this again. So we are in basic mode now, and now I feel much better about the tail because it was just not acting right. So now we are in idle mode. This is like easy mode flight, and there we go. And that is pretty easy, and that's very stable tail compared to what I'm used to with my 10-year-old gyros. That is pretty nice and very easy. not quite level. It's going forward a little bit. But this is basically the same as angle mode. Basically like flying in angle mode. It's really that easy. Except it's not powerful and it needs a lot more throttle. The tail's very well locked in. So that's an easy flyer. You could fly this. But we'll do a little more testing first. Maybe we'll do that on another battery pack. Now we're gonna go in 3D mode. There's dual rates, so that's low rates. There's high rates. I'm gonna keep it on low rates. If I switch to 3D mode, in 3D, okay, there we go. So now we're in 3D mode. So now I'm in center stick and it's levels, because if I push down, it'll go down. Now this is how you fly a heli, and this is what allows helis to fly upside down. Oh, there we go. That's pretty good now. I was thinking it was really weak, but it wasn't. It was just in low rate mode. So now it's like flying in rate mode. Come on. Whoa. Whoa. That tail locked up. It's like the gear's bound. Wow. Okay, so that motor is not good for 3D mode because it stops in the middle.
Tail rubber?
Yeah. It doesn't keep spinning. There's no collective on it. That is the big disadvantage I can already see for this. So it's got good control, but yeah, the tail motor, because this is a motor, it acts weird. It just doesn't act right, because on a regular heli, the tail is spinning all the time and the pitch changes so it can adjust better. Here, it actually has to stop, and it doesn't reverse, but it's still way better than my first heli.
It's only electronic.
Only electronic, yeah, it's just controlled by the speed of that motor. My first heli was that way, and this is a lot better than that was, but it's still not nearly as good as the tail. Now, for a beginner to not have to deal with that tail belt and get it backwards and spinning and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of nice, but, so I want 3D mode, and then if I disable, here, stay back a little bit, so it spins up automatically when I'm right in the middle. That doesn't sound right? I think we stripped a gear. Ooh, yeah! That looks familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. Slipped.
Well, I guess I'm not going to get to try and fly this one inverted. That's a bummer. I wanted to get a few more flights than that in on it. So I didn't get quite as much flight out of this as I had hoped. Let me show you what happened. Now this is really, really common for helicopters, but when you see all this dust all over, that pretty much means you lost your main gear, and that's exactly what happened to me. This happens with all classes of helis, not just this cheap one. So what happens is, see this piece right here? Its job is to keep this main gear lined up with the pinion attached to the motor, and it slipped. And I've had this happen with T-Rex, I've had it happen with Align helis. So basically we have to loosen this, slide it down, and then retighten it. And now it won't move down anymore. The problem is this gear is stripped completely, it's useless. The good part though is I just ordered 4 more for $8. So helicopters have weak components. This is one of the reasons I switched from helis to quads, because things like this don't happen as much. But in this case, it's super easy and cheap to replace. Well, it's super cheap to replace. We'll find out how easy it is when they get here. I'll probably do a video, because if they sell that many of them, it's probably a pretty common thing. So overall, first review of the quad, that I don't judge it too much by that one, because I probably did something wrong. It flew really nice. This tail is the weak part, and you're always going to have this when you have a motor-driven tail. A good tail will have either a shaft or a belt running through here that will control the spin of the blades. They will spin all the time, and they will have a servo here that controls the pitch of the blades, just like you have here on the top. That's how a good one will go. This is a motor, it's never going to be as good, but it's cheap and it's simple, so if you strip these out, it's a 5-minute job to replace these versus having to take it apart, and it's a 4-hour job to fix a tail with a full-size real heli. The flight controller seemed okay once we learned how to calibrate it. Don't really know what the flight time was. Didn't get a chance to fully test that with the battery. The radio, I'm going to say, is really nice. Okay, apparently I can't have it on without it bound. So we'll turn that back off. But we've got good control switches for basically easy mode with idle or 3D mode and control. We have a throttle hold, so that'll kill the throttle for you. It'll support mode 1 or mode 2 without any problem. Hover debugging, I never found out what that was. Low and high rates. When I first flew it, it seemed really slow and doggy, and I wasn't very impressed. That was because I was in low mode. You turn it to high and it's pretty good. And then we have 6G, which is the same as angle mode, or 3D, which is rate mode. So this is the mode, and this is the throttle control. So we've got to figure out the right version for that. I don't care for the notchy throttle anymore, but overall this radio, I mean, it's heavy. It's a regular full-size radio feel to it. I'm very impressed for the price what you get this radio with. Even has kind of a nice texture on the side. So as soon as my new gears get here, I will probably do a whole separate video on one of those, and I'll call this an initial flight. Once I get those gears on, I'll probably play with it a little bit and see if I can get some 3D flight out of it, if we can do some inverted hovering, and if I can, then there'll be another video. If I can't, then there probably won't. But if you found this useful, leave a like and a comment down below. If you've been looking at helis, let me know what you're looking at, because this is about $110. It's really cheap for everything that you get. But if you could get one of these for that price with a belt in the tail or a shaft, whatever it is currently, I think I'd be more impressed with that. Those also, though, have several gears here and a clutch assembly, so that's part of the reason they end up more expensive. There's a clutch all in here. But until next time, remember, the first time I tried to fly a heli, it didn't have angle mode. It only had rate mode as an option, and it took a week or two before I was able to hover for 30 seconds. So this isn't nearly as satisfying as what you get with that, but it's a whole lot easier.